Mells from Superficial Gallery, and welcome to episode 21 of 31 Days with the King. This is a short series dedicated to all things Stephen King, with a daily upload on one of his works. Now, we'll try our best to incorporate his most popular titles, as well as some of the ones that are lesser known or weren't as well received. So with that, let's get started with today's pick, and it's a fairly recent novel of King's, and it is The Outsider. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do. And this cover here is actually one of my favorites. When I saw the release for the cover, it got me really excited for this novel. It's just shrouded in mystery and horror, and it was really creepy, and so got me really hyped for this novel when it came out. Now, this novel combines a lot of King's most common known tropes. So there is horror, there's a supernatural element, and then there's real life horror as well, or true crime type of storyline as well. And it really flows quite nicely. Now, I've read it once and I've listened to it on Audible. I got a totally different experience when I listened to it on Audible. As I've mentioned before, that actually oftentimes happens to me when I listen to one of his works on Audible, depending on who the narrator is, of course. It really draws me in and kind of develops a story even further for me than what I could have imagined for myself. And that is why it actually became one of my favorite King novels after the second time around. So there is a character, Terry. He lives in Flint City, and he is one of the most popular and well-known citizens of this town. He is a Little League coach. He's a teacher. He's really just an all-around good guy. And then one day, he is arrested and accused of a very violent and brutal crime, the murder of a very young boy. And immediately, everyone in the town is sort of confused. This is the guy that is the go-to guy, and no one can really believe that he would be capable of doing such an atrocious thing. Now, there's a lot of damning evidence against Terry. Again, I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as I can because I really don't want to give away the meat to the story. But basically, the reason that they bring him in and they charge him with this is because all of his DNA is found at the scene of the crime. Blood, fingerprints, everything. I mean, it seems to be a, knock out of the park, no pun intended, since he's a Little League coach there, that he did this, but Terry has a really solid alibi. So this starts to be where the plot thickens, of course, and a lot of the supernatural elements start to come into play. There may be a little bit of the dark half vibe to it. Not so much the same as George Stark, not really that type of duality of the same person, but the supernatural entity in this book really kind of reminds me of the supernatural entity that is in Dreamcatcher, and of course of It or Pennywise, whichever you may know him best from, and of course from the novel It. It is an extraterrestrial, interdimensional being, and it does have a few different elements to it. It is a shapeshifter, but again, I'm going to leave it at that. Don't want to spoil too much, but this was an awesome, awesome read. It has a tie-in to the Bill Hodges trilogy, so the Mr. Mercedes trilogy. One of the main characters from that series is also in this one. I won't mention who it is because, like I said, I kind of want to leave a little bit element of surprise to the story. And there's also mention of another being in the story that directly relates to the Dark Tower. So that is why I highly, highly recommend this novel. It's a little bit of a steeper read I think it's over 500 pages. So if you prefer to listen to it on Audible, the one that I listened to was narrated by Will Patton, which I really love it when he narrates any of King's works. I just love his voice. So now, really important and special news about The Outsider is it is getting a mini-series on HBO, premiering January 12th. Now, a little aside, if you are kind of into dark comics or, that type of thing, Watchmen premiered on HBO last night, and right before the premiere, we got the first teaser trailer that I've seen of The Outsider, and it does star Jason Bateman, and I'm very, very excited for this, not only because I love Jason Bateman, but because I'm really excited to see how they bring the story to life, especially the supernatural elements of it. I think it's going to be a phenomenal series. Of course, when it comes out, I'm going to have something to say about it, so stay tuned on that. Again, so this has been The Outsider. I wouldn't be me if I didn't show you the photo in the back. And like I said, this is one of his more recent novels, so it is a more recent photo of him. Little salt and pepper up in the hair. Still just looking devilishly handsome, in my opinion. Love this man. Everything he puts out, pretty much, for the most part. So definitely pick up The Outsider. Again, I don't think you'd be disappointed. Just a fair warning, due to the supernatural elements of it, you really kind of have to take your time reading it and take the time to understand what's really kind of going on with the story. So that was my fair warning with this novel, and why I said second time around on Audible, it was a lot easier for me to kind of get a clearer picture of what was going on. So, thank you for coming along this review of The Outsider with me. If you are looking for anything Castle Rock related, because that does come back on Wednesday on Hulu, season 2. Please be sure to check out the podcast Castle Rock Historical Society. It is co-hosted by Hannah Selector and Acadia Einstein. They do an amazing job recapping the show. I highly suggest it. And I mentioned Watchmen earlier. If you are looking for a companion podcast on that, look for We Watch the Watchmen. That's also obviously, just had its first episode last night, so be on the lookout for that as well. I think that's going to be a pretty good one to listen to also. So if you've read the novel, comment below. Let us know your thoughts. If you're excited for the miniseries that's coming out, let us know what you think about that. Like the video, subscribe to Superficial Gallery, and hit the bell to get notified when new content is published. We're taking requests. I've got a few more left in the month, and we're dwindling down on the days left in the series. So you can comment those below as well, or tweet me at MellsBells84. We'd be happy to cover it for you. And until then, it's been great, and I will be back to haunt y'all tomorrow. Bye. Aww.